Night's Vigil. The environs of the old manse were quiet. Not like a mute button, Billy could hear his sneakers on the brick steps, wind rustling the leaves of the hedge maze, playing across a wind flute that was cousin to a didgeridoo. All the sounds of the manse and its immediate environs. Nothing more. Billy had fond memories of the place. The bench swing was still hanging on the right side of the porch. He'd sat there, between his father and grandfather, kicking his legs and spitting watermelon seeds over the rails. Billy sat down, comforted, as the swing quietly took his weight. The hedge maze looked shorter. He smiled, recalling his grandfather telling epic tales of nobility, chivalry, and then sending him off to quests through the maze for the likes of Durandal, Tizona, or Masamune. He chuckled. He must have spent hours wandering that maze, and each time he'd eventually find an exquisite wooden replica, scaled for his youth. Emerging from the maze triumphant, seeing his grandfather in some elaborate villainous outfit, "On guard!" the old man would exclaim, and swing his cane at young Billy's wooden sword. He'd been shockingly nimble, dancing around till Billy was at the edge of exhaustion before brazenly charging at the boy and taking a death blow from the wooden blade. They'd head inside for dinner, which somehow was always just ready as they finished. Billy choked for a moment, thinking about his mother's cooking, missing her. They'd come here summer after summer. And then one summer they hadn't returned. The memories slowly faded till they were more like daydreams. Billy got good marks in math and decent ones in physics, but always preferred keeping his hands busy. He took a few classes at the local community college while working through a temp agency, got a taste of how filthy life could get while cleaning out repoed homes, and got a job as an electrician. Billy was 40 when his parents died. Vehicular collision on I-40. Having worked hard and lived modestly, Billy could afford to take some time for the funeral. That turned out to be the easy part. Related paperwork kept him busy for weeks, but eventually he got to the last folder. It was titled The Manse, a name that stirred daydreams and long-forgotten memories. Tax statements and receipts, a deed, and nothing more. The address was on the tax statements. He was done with the paperwork. He was not ready to go back to work. Besides, he still had to decide what to do about the manse. Should he keep it, maybe rent it out, or would he be better off just selling it? The hedge maze wasn't the 3 or 4 times his height that it had been in his memories, but it had to be at least 10 or 12 feet high. Something didn't fit. Billy scrutinized the maze. The walls, tall and well manicured. The entrance, right where he remembered it. Everything looked the same, once he accounted for his adult height. And then it struck him. It did look the same, exactly the same, as if someone was still taking care of it. He pinched the bridge of his nose. He'd practically memorized the regular monthly and yearly expenses. Well, he hadn't managed to account for every single item. There wasn't anything left to account for paying a groundskeeper or gardener. Could someone be living here? He shrugged and walked over to the door. The screen door swung out easily, but the door behind it was locked. A yellowed envelope sat on the doorknob. It was addressed to Squire William. Billy snorted. His grandfather used to call him that.
Where in state the legendary blade does lie, through leafy labyrinth at the center find, gatekeeper, glamour cleaver, fee bane, the blood of earth and man entwined, a night's vigil holds barred the door, and dawn bears witness, a freshly sworn knight.
Billy snorted again, but a part of his heart stirred to meet the quest. Maybe he'd find some last remembrance of his grandfather, one last wooden sword. He needed to stretch his legs anyway. A melancholy stole over him as he entered the hedge maze. It truly was a labyrinth, as depicted on ancient coins, twists and turns, but the path never split. Hard to imagine the Minotaur and the ancient heroes getting lost in a place like this. Not quite as easy when he was a child, though, he mused. He trailed his left hand along the hedge and moved forward confidently. Billy came to an abrupt stop at the center of the maze. A black leather case sat on a flat stone in the middle of the clearing. He strode up to it. It couldn't have been there long. The clearing was otherwise empty. Curiosity and trepidation warred for a moment while he stared at the case. Opening it, Billy found his grandfather's cane. He felt bemused as he left the maze, cane in his right hand and the now empty case slung across his back.
"On guard, Squire William!"
his grandfather boomed. He looked just as Billy remembered. "Impossible," Billy whispered.
"All Hallows' Eve makes many things possible, boy, and the more so after sunset. Now, come with me."
The older gentleman led the way behind the manse. A freestanding stone arch loomed in the backyard, ominous in the fading rays of sunlight.
"This is the Vigil. You'll kneel before the arch till sunrise, blade planted in the ground before you. Do not let go for anything."
"What blade?" Billy asked, bewildered.
"Push the knob, turn the handle, shuck the sheath, it doesn't matter."
The old man took Billy's hands in his icy grasp, moving them through the motions as he spoke.
"Now," he shouted as the darkness fell, "thrust!"
Billy was on one knee, blade in the ground, and he cried out. His grandfather's chill grip kept his hands in place despite a sharp sting and blood running down his hand and the blade. A translucent barrier sprung up across the arch in front of him, and his grandfather carefully loosed his grip and stepped to the side. Ghastly faces, nightmares of tooth and claw, smashed against the barrier.
"Stay strong. The dead and those from beyond have no place here," his grandfather stated grimly.
Vision after vision appeared through the barrier. Impossibly beautiful women cajoled him. Billy looked at his grandfather's grim countenance and maintained his hold on the sword. The pain in his hand and the ground beneath him seemed solid, real despite the phantasmagoric things he could see through the stone arch. An ogre gnashed its crooked teeth and threatened to make his death agonizing if he forced it to smash the barrier itself. Billy eyed the barrier, but it seemed safer to trust that than a being that would probably kill him anyway if given the chance. A cat-like spirit offered to protect him from evil spirits, flicking its eyes toward his grandfather. Billy didn't bother following its gaze, gritting his teeth and holding fast. The menagerie continued till dawn broke. The old man laughed.
"Well done, Sir William. One final challenge for a brave knight. On guard!"
And the old man transformed in the first rays of dawn, brandishing claws like butcher knives. Billy rose, aching from the night's vigil. His arm wavered as he pointed the blade at the spirit that was his grandfather. In a rush, the spirit was upon him, clasping him in a deadly embrace.
"I hope you never need to learn just how tempting the taste of life is to the dead, grandson,"
the spirit whispered in his ear. It fell backwards, blade still impaled through its heart. Billy breathed heavily, watching the spirit dissipate into black motes that dissolved in the dawn's light. He could hear morning traffic on the road outside the estate, and the old wind flute still played its haunting melody. The back door of the manse was unlocked, and Billy heard his mother's voice admonishing him to wash up. He did so, a nice hot shower easing his body's aches, before he found a bed and collapsed into dreamless slumber.